Okay, principal and interest, obviously we need to include. Taxes. Those are referring to the property taxes, and so those will also need to be included. Insurance, we're referring to the homeowner's insurance, so that needs to be included. Car payment, $200, that's going to be on the credit report, so that needs to be included. Health insurance for $500, that's not going to be on the credit report. If the borrower stops paying that, then their health insurance will lapse, but they will not have an ongoing obligation, so we are not going to count health insurance. Cable TV, also not on their credit report. We're not going to count that in their debt ratios. Credit card payment, yes. Child support payment, yes. Electricity payment, no. So now let's calculate this borrower's primary or front end and secondary or back end debt ratio. Okay, for the front end, again, we need the entire house payment. So in this case, we have our principal and interest payment, which is $1,500. But remember, we need to use the entire house payment, so we need to add $200 for the taxes and the $50 for the insurance to make up their entire house payment. That gives us a total housing expense of $1,750. To get our front end debt ratio, we're going to divide that number by the $5,000 of their monthly income. And when you do that on your calculator, 1,750 divided by $5,000 or 5,000, that equals 0.35. So their front end debt ratio is 35%. Now for their back end debt ratio, you're going to take the 1,750 that we had as their housing expense. We're going to add to that all their other payments. So they have a car payment of $200. They have a credit card payment of $150. And they have child support of $200. You're going to add those numbers up, and that's going to give you the borrower's total debt obligations that you're then going to be able to use for their back-end debt ratio. And when you add all those up, that gives you a total monthly payment obligation of $2,300. To figure out back-end debt ratio, we're going to divide that number by $5,000, which is our total monthly income. And when you divide the $2,300 by the $5,000, that gives you on your calculator, 0.46, which means your back-end debt ratio is 46%. So the borrower's debt ratios on this loan are going to be 35/46. And just remember, the back-end debt ratio includes all the borrower's payments for which they are obligated, including the housing payment. So far in our examples, we've oversimplified the monthly income, and I've just given it to you. Actually calculating what to use for the borrower's monthly income can be a little bit difficult. For commissioned or self-employed borrowers, you usually have to take a 2-year average of the commission or the self-employment income, and you'll usually have to look at the tax returns for that. So we're not going to get into those calculations, but we are going to talk about calculating monthly income amounts for borrowers who are paid monthly, borrowers who are paid every week, borrowers who are paid every 2 weeks, and then borrowers who are paid hourly. Now you may have borrowers that are paid hourly every week, but when we talk about borrowers who are paid every week, we're going to talk about borrowers who are on salary every week, borrowers who are on salary monthly, borrowers who are on salary every 2 weeks, and then we're just going to talk about hourly borrowers separately. So let's start talking about our monthly borrowers. This is probably the easiest one of them all. If you have a borrower who receives $5,000 a month, you are going to use $5,000 a month income. Now we're going to make it slightly more complicated. Let's say you have a borrower who makes $100,000 a year. If you want to figure out his monthly income, or her monthly income, all you do is divide the annual income by 12 to get your monthly income. So in this case, that's going to be $83.33 and 33 cents. So salaried borrowers are fairly easy if you know a monthly amount or an annual amount. But they get a little bit more complicated if you're given a salaried borrower that's paid every week. So let's talk about that. Let's say a borrower is paid $1,000 every week. Now some people may be tempted to just say, okay, if a borrower makes $1,000 every week, that means they make $4,000 every month. Hey, that's not entirely accurate, because if you notice, there are 52 weeks in the year. So if you take $1,000, multiply it by the 52 weeks of the year, because they are going to be paid every week, that's $52,000 a year. If you had done it the other way, you would have only given the borrower $48,000 a year in income. You've given the borrower $4,000 a year more in income doing it this way, which is going to allow them to qualify for more of a loan. So now that we have their annual income, you're just going to divide that by 12 in order to obtain their monthly income. And in this case, that's going to be $43.33. And you notice that's $300 or $333 more per month by figuring it with 52 weeks in the year than if we had just taken $1,000 multiplied by 4 weeks out of the month.